Oh, so I don't have much time to do this, but this is something I felt compelled to do. I've already put this out on various social media, but I figured I'd go a little bit more in depth here with a video on YouTube. So, Frontiers Reach is something I started back in 2015. I started in college. It started with sketches, writing, and conversations with friends. Graduated college in 2016, December of 2016. Got my first job in February of 2017. In 2018, I really started to kind of like dive into open world games, try and basically get a better understanding of those games. One of those games was actually Ghost Recon Wildlands, as well as Ark Survival Evolved. From there, I continued to do research and, like I said, mentioned here, survival crafting type games and procedurally generated games. So Ark Survival Evolved and No Man's Sky. 2020 work begins on Frontiers Reach 1, a combat flight simulator designed to lay the foundation for things to come. This almost ended up in disaster because the first team I put together, like everybody just wanted to run a Kickstarter and raise money so that they could have money. I and maybe one other person were the only people genuinely interested in making a game. 2021 made the leap to Unity's high-definition render pipeline, which has been a pain in the butt to learn. It's horribly when I first started, it was horribly optimized. And even now, if you start a HDRP project from the ground up, it does not run very well out of the box. So you really have to play with it and understand what you're doing. Learn your tools. 2021 was also the first iteration of the Scenario Manager. Scenario Manager is a key piece of technology that would be required to run missions on a game level. There were several things that were taken into consideration throughout the first iteration, and a lot of lessons were learned. 2022, the second iteration of the Scenario Manager is built with a robust structure allowing for any type of game to use it. Enables the war map in FR1 to become reality. This was a major step in the right direction, this right here. This was a massive overhaul that took into account all of the lessons learned from the first iteration, as well as the continued exploration of open world games, which back in 2018 is when that started. So there was easily 4 years of research and development that went into the Scenario Manager. 2023, Frontiers Reach 1 is feature complete. It has everything in it that I planned to have in it. It goes out onto Steam, but work on it continues, not necessarily development work, but production and refinement work. In 2024, I signed a deal with a publisher. I don't talk about this much. It's a very small publisher out in the UK. They happen to be more or less owned by the same company that owns Keymailer, which I think they're actually getting ready to change their name to Partney as a sort of larger conglomeration. This is also the same year where I game jammed out the basic mechanics for Frontiers Reach Battlespace, an idle management game, in about a weekend, 3-day weekend that I had. I was basically alone, all by myself in the house for 3 days. 2025 January. Frontiers Reach 1, All These Worlds update goes live on Steam. The All These Worlds update was a massive overhaul for Frontiers Reach 1 that saw origin shifting, large-scale environments added, and a lot of research from the previous year that went towards a terrain generation tool set that I continue to use to this day. February 2025. Battlespace is announced is announced for early access. March 2025, the first official unplayable version of Frontiers Reach Mercenaries tech demo is released. Why a tech demo? So, the tech demo is built to hopefully attract players and maybe possibly investors. I'll get into the investor part here in a little bit, but the idea is to basically have something to put in front of people to get them excited about the thing that I really want to build. It also helps to be able to put that in front of potential team members and get them interested in it. June. Continued updates to Frontiers Reach Mercenaries tech demo goes Patreon subscribers only. Basically, in order to kind of like raise some money for assets and raise some money for continued development, I decided to just go ahead and move forward with Patreon subscribers only. This is also because I don't want to do early access with this game. Not on Steam anyways. Steam is great. It's got a lot of really robust infrastructure, but once you get tied into the Steam environment, you can't it's difficult to untether yourself from that. So the goal here is to basically stay as light and agile as possible until it comes time to release the game on Steam. Frontiers Reach Battlespace goes into early access. That just happened a couple weeks ago. That's going on. I'm still developing it. I will continue to work on it until it's ready for release, and then we'll release it, and then we'll start looking at deploying it to other platforms. I have no idea what that timeline is going to look like. 2025, September. Apply for Epic Mega Grant. I have had my eyes on UE5 since it released. I've been skeptical about some of the improvements that they've made, or some of the new technology that they've built, but they've made numerous improvements to tech like Nanite, and they've recently released Nanite Foliage. Essentially, there is a desire here to move to Unreal Engine 5. However, I am thoroughly embedded into the Unity environment with like 8 years of development experience, hardcore development experience, and 5 years of technology built for the Unity engine. Even if I could find asset replacements, I have stuff that I have personally built for use in Unity that is not easily replaceable. If I can get an Epic Mega Grant to help pay for that, basically migrating all of my custom stuff, that would be great. That would be awesome. 2026, if the Epic Mega Grant is received, we begin building the official game in UE5 with continued access to Patreon subscribers. Otherwise, we will continue working in Unity with what resources we have. I'm going to make this game regardless of whether it's in UE5 or Unity. Regardless of whether it looks like a AAA game or an indie game. It doesn't matter to me. I'm going to make it. But it would be really nice if we could basically bring it up to snuff with all of the other stuff that's being released these days. 2027. First official build of Frontiers Reach Mercenaries goes live on Steam. I'm expecting this to be a full release. Assuming that I get an Epic Mega Grant and we continue to grow the Patreon support platform, I see no reason why we shouldn't be able to get everything done that I want to get done by 2027. There's already a lot of work done inside of, especially if I have to continue in Unity, because there's already a lot of work done to build out to this point. Remember, I started Frontiers Reach 1 all the way back in 2020. There's 5 years of technology behind Frontiers Reach Mercenaries right now. Even though the project was only started in January 1st. In January 2025. 2028, first expansion for Frontiers Reach Mercenaries. I'm not sure what it's going to be called. It's going to release with a new planet. I'm not sure what planet that's going to be. I have a general idea. Team members will probably know about it if they've looked at the design document, but generally speaking, the timeline is at 2028, January 2028. Or Q1 2028, I should probably say, is the target release date for the very first expansion for Frontiers Reach Mercenaries. From there, we will continue to release a new expansion every year, and each time an expansion is released, that will be a new planet and a continuation of the main storyline. Eventually, the goal is to have probably a good 10 to 15 planets, even after the main story ends. But keep in mind that all of this is that all of these release dates are tentative. So it may get pushed back a little bit more, or it may get pushed forward. It just kind of depends on what goes right and what goes wrong. Everything is kind of tentative after the 2026 date. So, yeah. Basically, that's it. That's all I wanted to talk about. Yeah. Till next time.